Phyllotoxy. What is phyllotoxy? Phyllotoxy is the pattern of arrangement of leaves on the stem or branch. Okay, it is type of alternate, opposite, and whorl. In alternate, a single leaf arises at each node in alternate manner, as you see in the China rose in the diagram. And then another is the opposite. In opposite, a pair of leaves arise at each node and lie opposite to each other, as in calotropis and guava. If more than two leaves arise at a node and form a whorl, it is known as whorled phyllotoxy, and it is shown in the Alstonia. In here, it is a Alstonia. So China rose, guava, and this one is a Alstonia. So different types of phyllotoxy. Now talking about the inflorescence, a flower is a modified shoot wherein the shoot apical meristem changes to floral meristem. Okay, now what will happen? The internodes do not elongate and the axis gets condensed. Okay, the apex produces different kinds of floral appendages laterally at successive nodes instead of leaves. The apex produces different kinds of floral appendages laterally at successive nodes instead of leaves. Right. When a shoot tip transforms into a flower, it is always solitary. The arrangement of flowers on the floral axis is termed as inflorescence. The arrangement of flowers, the arrangement of leaves is the phyllotoxy. Okay, on the floral axis is termed as inflorescence. Depending on whether the apex gets developed into a flower or continues to grow, two major types of inflorescence are defined. One is the racemose and another is the cymose. In racemose type of inflorescence, the main axis continues to grow. The flowers are borne laterally in an acropetal succession. It means the younger flowers at the top and older flowers at the bottom. Right. In cymose type of inflorescence, the axis gets terminate. It means it is a solitary flower, hence it is a limited in growth. The flowers are borne in basipetal order. It means the younger flowers at the bottom and old flowers at the top that restrict the further growth. So this diagram represents the racemose inflorescence and this diagram represents the cymose inflorescence. Now talking about the flower. Now flower is a reproductive unit in the angiosperm. It is meant for sexual reproduction. A typical flower has four different kinds of whorls arranged successively on the swollen end of the stalk or pedicel. So the flower has a stalk or pedicel, and it has the end that is a swollen and is called the thalamus or receptacle. Now these are calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. While the calyx and corolla, these are the accessory organs, while androecium and gynoecium, these are the reproductive organs. Now in some flowers like lily, the calyx and corolla are not distinct and are termed as perianth. Now flower flower has both androecium and gynoecium. It is bisexual. Now unisexual, the flowers can be bisexual and unisexual. When it is unisexual, when it has either only stamens or only carpels, female part or male part. Now talking about the symmetry, the flower may be actinomorphic, that is radial symmetry, or zygomorphic, that is bilateral symmetry. So zygomorphic, that is bilateral symmetry. When a flower can be divided into two equal radial halves in any radial plane passing through the center, it is said to be actinomorphic. Right. Mustard, datura, chili are the examples. When it can be divided into two similar halves only in one particular plane, it is zygomorphic, that is pea, bean, cassia and gulmohur. And flower is asymmetric, that is irregular, if it cannot be divided into two similar halves by any vertical plane passing through the center, as in canna. A flower may be trimerous, tetramerous and pentamerous, multiple floral appendages, 3, 4 or 5 respectively. The flowers with bracts, it is, what is bract? They are the reduced leaf found at the base of the pedicel. What is pedicel? As I told you, pedicel or stalk, and then it has the swollen end, that is thalamus or receptacle, are called bracteate, and those without bracts, these are ebracteate. Okay. Now flowers, the position of floral parts on thalamus is a swollen part of stalk, pedicel of flower. Right. Now it is hypogynous, perigynous and epigynous. These are types of flowers. Now based on the position of calyx, corolla, androecium in respect of the ovary on thalamus, the flowers are described as hypogynous, perigynous and epigynous. In hypogynous flower, the gynoecium occupies the highest position while the other parts are situated below it. In such flowers, the ovary is superior. Mustard, China rose and brinjal are the example. Gynoecium is situated in the center. If the gynoecium is situated in the center and other parts of the flower are located on the rim of the thalamus almost at the same level, it is called the perigynous. Here the ovary is half inferior, plum, rose and peach, and in case of epigynous flowers, the margin of thalamus grows upward, enclosing the ovary completely and getting fused with it. The other parts of the flower arise above the ovary, hence the ovary is said to be inferior, as in flowers of guava, cucumber and red florets of sunflower. As you can see, as you can see in the diagram, that is D, that is epigynous, and B and C, these almost at the same level. Okay, calyx and corolla and androecium almost at the same level on the rim of the thalamus, and the ovary is half inferior, right? Half inferior. So this is the case of, I think, epigynous. This is the case of perigynous, right? And first one is the hypogynous. So this is the position of floral parts on thalamus. Okay, now parts of a flower. Now parts of a flower, they have calyx, corolla, and what next? They have the calyx, corolla, then androecium, and then gynoecium. So we are studying the parts of a flower. Okay, each flower normally has 4 floral buds: calyx, corolla, androecium, and gynoecium. Calyx, these are green in color. They are also called as sepals, right? They are green. They protect the flower in the bud stage, and they are gamosepals, that is sepals united, that is they are fused, and polysepals, that is sepals are free. Now corolla, these are the composed of, they are called, these are composed of petals. They are usually brightly colored to attract insects for pollination. They use in pollination. Like calyx, corolla also gamopetalous, that is petals when united, and polypetalous, that is petals when free. They have the different shapes, right? Now estivation, we are studying the estivation under the calyx and corolla context. Right, now estivation, what is estivation? The mode of arrangement of sepals or petals, means calyx and corolla, in floral bud with respect to the other members of the same whorl, is known as estivation. The main types of estivation are: first one is the velvet, second is the twisted, third one is the imbricate, and fourth one is the vexillary. Now when the sepals or petals in a whorl just touch one another at the margin without overlapping, in case of calotropis it is velvet, right? If one margin of the appendages overlaps that of the next one, and so on, as in china rose, lady's finger, and cotton, it is twisted, right? If the margin of the sepals or petals overlap one another but not in any particular direction, as in cassia and gulmohar, the type of estivation is imbricate. And P and B flowers, there are 5 petals. The largest, that is standard, overlaps the 2 lateral petals, that is wings, which in turn overlap the 2 smallest anterior petals, that is keel. This type of estivation is known as vexillary or papilionocia. So you can see velvet, twisted, imbricate, and vexillary. First one, they do not touch, they do not touch, okay, they just touch. Okay, velvet, they just touch. Sepals or petals in a whorl just touch one another at the margin without overlapping. In case of calotropis, it is velvet. And if the one margin appendage and so on, it is twisted, right? China rose, lady's finger, and cotton. And imbricate, cassia, and gulmohar, you can see randomly they arranged. And vexillary. Okay, now talking about the androecium. The androecium is composed of stamens, right? Each stamen, which represents the male reproductive organ, consists of a stalk or filament and an anther. An anther is usually bilobed. Each lobe has 2 chambers. The pollen sacs, right? The pollen grains are produced in pollen sacs. A sterile stamen is called staminode. What is staminode? A sterile stamen made up of stalk and anther. Okay, in anther there is a chamber. It has a pollen sac which produces the pollen grain, which is the male gamete. Now stamens of flower may be united with other members such as petals or among themselves. So stamens can be together, or stamen plus petals can be together. When stamens are attached to the petals, they are epipetalous, as in brinjal, or epiphyllous when attached to the perianth. Perianth, it is calyx and corolla, not distinct. Okay, as in case of flowers of lily. The stamens in a flower may be either remain free, that is polyandrous, or may be united in varying degree. The stamens may be united into one bunch or one bundle, that is monoadelphous, as in china rose, or 2 bundles, it is diadelphous, as in pea, into more than 2 bundles, that is polyadelphous, as in citrus. So china rose monoadelphous, diadelphous pea, and polyadelphous, that is citrus. Okay, the length of filaments can be vary in salvinia and mustard. Now gynoecium. Gynoecium is the female reproductive part of the flower. Is made up of one or more carpels. The carpel consists of 3 parts, namely stigma, style, and ovary. Ovary, enlarged basal part. Okay. Now, now style connects the ovary to the stigma, right? Now stigma, it is the tip of the style. It is the receptive surface for pollen grains. Stigma. Each ovary bears one or more ovules attached to the flattened cushion-like placenta. Placenta is a cushion. It is a flattened cushion-like placenta. Now, ovules inside the ovary is attached to the placenta. When more than one carpel is present, they may be free, as in lotus and rose, and are called the apocarpus. They are termed as syncarpus when carpels are fused, as in mustard and tomato. After fertilization, the ovules develops into seeds and ovary matures into a fruit. Now, under the context of gynoecium, we are studying the placentation. What is placentation? The arrangement of ovules within the ovary is known as placentation. The placentation are of different types, namely marginal, axial, parietal, basal, central, free central. That's it. The marginal examples are pea. Okay. In axial placentation, examples are China rose, tomato, and lemon. In parietal, examples are mustard and argemone. And in free central, examples are dianthus and primrose. In basal, examples are sunflower and marigold. Now, what about the marginal placentation? Marginal placentation, the placenta forms a ridge along ventral suture of the ovary, and the ovules are born on this ridge, forming two rows, as in P. When the placenta is axial, the ovules are attached to it in a multilocular ovary. The placenta is said to be axial, China rose, tomato, and lemon. Right. In parietal placentation, the ovules develop on the inner wall of the ovary or on peripheral part. Right. Ovary is one chambered, but it becomes two chambered due to the formation of the false septum, that is mustard and argemone. This is the parietal placentation, right? When the ovules are born on central axis and the septa are absent, as in dianthus and primrose, the placenta is free central. Okay, in basal placentation, the placenta develops at the base of the ovary and a single ovule is attached to it, as in sunflower and marigold. So this is all types of placentation. First one is the marginal, second one is the axial, third one is the parietal, fourth one is the free central, and fifth one is the basal. Right now, the fruit. We are talking about the fruit. The fruit is a characteristic feature of the flowering plants. It is a mature or ripened ovary developed after fertilization. Right? If a fruit is formed without fertilization of the ovary, it is called as parthenocarpic fruit. Okay. Generally, the fruit consists of a wall or pericarp and seeds. Now, what contains the fruit? It consists of a wall, pericarp, or seeds. The pericarp may be dry or fleshy. When pericarp is thick and fleshy, it is differentiated into outer epicarp, middle mesocarp, and inner endocarp. So, epicarp, mesocarp, and endocarp. In mango and coconut, the fruit is known as the drupe. They develop from monocarpellary superior ovaries and are one-seeded. And in mango, the pericarp is well differentiated. It is not under differentiated. It is well differentiated into an outer thin epicarp, a middle fleshy edible mesocarp, and inner stony hard endocarp. In coconut, which is also a drupe, the mesocarp is fibrous. But in coconut, which is also a drupe fruit, the mesocarp is fibrous. As you can see in the parts of a fruit, that is mango, outer is epicarp, middle is mesocarp, and inner is endocarp, and inside the seed. So this is all fruit. Fruit consists of wall, that is pericarp, plus seed. Okay, now the coconut, as you can see, mesocarp is fibrous and inner is endocarp. Epicarp is not shown in the coconut. So this is it. Okay. Now talking about the seed. Now inside the fruit there is a seed. Now the ovules after fertilization develops into a seed. Right. A seed is made up of seed coat and embryo. Now what is made up of the seed? Is made up of seed coat and an embryo. The embryo is made up of radicle, an embryonal axis, and one or two cotyledons. So what is made up of embryo? It is made up of radicle and embryonal axis, and if the cotyledon is one, as in wheat and maize, and if two cotyledon, that is gram and pea. Now the structure of dicotyledonous seed. There are two types of seeds, that is, one is the dicotyledonous seed, second is the monocotyledonous seed, based on the number of cotyledons, right? Now, the structure of a dicotyledonous seed. The outermost covering of a seed is the seed coat, right? The seed coat has two layers. The outer is testa and the inner is tegmen, right? The hilum is a scar on the seed coat through which the developing seeds were attached to the fruit, right? Hilum is a scar on the seed coat through which the developing seeds were attached to the fruit. Above the hilum is a small pore called the micropyle. Now, above that hilum is a small pore called the micropyle. What is hilum? Hilum is a scar on the seed coat through which the developing seeds were attached to the fruit. Now, above the hilum is a small pore called the micropyle. Now, within the seed coat is the embryo, consists of an embryonal axis and two cotyledons. The cotyledons are often fleshy, full of rhizome materials, Cotyledons are often fleshy and full of reserve food materials. At the two ends of the embryonal axis are present the radicle and plumule. In some seeds such as castor, the endosperm form as a result of double fertilization. Right, is a food storing tissue and called endospermic seeds. In plants such as bean, gram and pea, the endosperm is not present in mature seeds. Such seeds are the not endospermous seeds. Right, now here the structure of dicotyledonous seed. As you can see, two cotyledonous, then there is plumule, then there is radicle, then it is a seed coat, then there is a scar on the seed coat, that is the hilum, and above the region of the hilum there is a small opening, that is micropyle. So now the structure of monocot seed. Generally monocot seeds are endospermic, that is in mature seed there is a still and there is seed. In some seeds such as a castor, the endosperm form as a result of double fertilization is a food storing tissue and called endospermic seeds. Right, okay. So monocotyledonous seeds are endospermic, but some, as in orchids, these are non-endospermic. Right, in seeds of cereals such as maize, now the seed coat is membranous and is generally fused with the fruit wall. The endosperm is bulky and stores food. What is the characteristics of endosperm? It is a bulky and it is a storing food tissue and it stores food. The outer covering of endosperm separates the embryo by a proteinaceous layer called aleurone layer. Right, the embryo is small and situated in a groove at one end of the endosperm. It consists of one large shield shaped cotyledon known as the scutellum and a short axis with a plumule and radicle. Right, the plumule and radicle are enclosed in sheaths which are called colluteal and coleorhiza respectively. Plumule enclosed in colluteal and radicle enclosed in coleorhiza. Now see the diagram. Structure of monocotyledonous seed. It is endosperm and there is inside embryo. Now seed coat and fruit wall gets fused, and then there is a layer called aleurone layer that separates the embryo and endosperm. The outer covering of endosperm separates the embryo by a proteinaceous layer called aleurone layer. So as you can see, endosperm and embryo. Now in embryo there is a scutellum. There is on the single side one cotyledon. Then there is a plumule is covered by colluteal, and then there is a radicle. It is also enclosed by the coleorhiza. Right. So this is all the things. Now talking about the semi-technical description of a typical flowering plant, that is angiosperm. Right, semi-technical description of a typical flowering plant. Right, now this is the floor. Okay, now we are going to see, like, this is the floral diagram with floral formula plus it is like zygomorphic sign K 2 plus 2 C4 A 2 plus 4 G dash underline 2 fused. Right, now I'm reading this summary. Right in here. So the thing that, okay, the plant is described beginning with its habitat. Vegetative characters. What are the vegetative characters? That is roots, stem and leaves. And then floral characters, that is inflorescence and flower parts. And then floral characters, inflorescence and flower parts. Right, after describing various parts of plant, a floral diagram and a floral formula are represented. The floral formula is represented by some symbols. In floral formula, BR stands for bracteate. I told you, like, flower has a bracteate, that is a reduced leaf at the base of the pedicel, that is bracteate. Very good. K stands for calyx, right, not C. Now capital C stands for corolla. Okay, corolla. And then P stands for perianth, A stands for endoecium and G stands for gynoecium. Now G underline for superior ovary, G underline below it for inferior ovary, and for this sign arrow, that for male, and downward for female, and downward and also both for bisexual plants, plus sign for actinomorphic, that is radial symmetry, and percentage sign for zygomorphic nature, that is bilateral symmetry. Okay, now fusion is indicated by enclosing the figure within the bracket and adhesion by line drawn above the symbols of the floral parts. So adhesion of by a line is also the fusion, right? A floral diagram provides information about the number of parts of a flower, their arrangement, number of parts of a flower, how many parts are there in the flower, and their arrangement and the relation they have with one another, right? The position of the mother axis with respect to the flower is represented by a dot on the top of the floral diagram. Calyx, corolla, endoecium and gynoecium are drawn in successive whorls. Calyx being the outermost, very important. Calyx being the outermost and the gynoecium being in the center. Floral formula also shows cohesion adhesion within parts of whorls and between whorls, right? Floral formula also shows cohesion and adhesion by a line within parts of a whorl and between whorls. The floral diagram and floral formula represents the mustard plant, that is Brassicaceae. So this represents the mustard plant, belongs to the Brassicaceae. It is a family, right? You can see plus, then bisexual, then K, calyx, C, corolla, A, endoecium, and G, that is superior ovary, that is fused carpels. Okay, so this is it. So this is about the mustard family. Now talking about the Solanaceae, it is a family. It is a large family, commonly known as potato family, right? Okay, now first we are going to study the habitat, right? We study the habitat. Now we are going to study the vegetative characters, in which vegetative characters stem, leaves and roots, right? Now plants mostly herbs, shrubs and rarely small trees. It's not important. Stem, herbaceous, rarely woody, aerial, erect, cylindrical, branched, solid or hollow, hairy or glabrous, underground stem in potato, that is Solanum tuberosum, right? Potato, underground stem in potato, that is Solanum tuberosum. Leaves, alternate, simple, rarely pinnately compound, exstipulate, venation, reticulate, right? So leaves are important. It is alternate, right? Leaves are alternate. It is a phyllotoxy, that is arrangement of leaves. Alternate, that is each node has one leaf in the alternate manner. Then simple, right? The incision is not breaking the midrib. They are rarely pinnately compound. Pinnately, you see, pinnately and palmately, that is, it is a type of compound leaf as in seen in the neem. So rarely pinnately compound. Exstipulate and venation is reticulate, that is veins and venulets, they are parallelly arranged, right, in most of the monocotyledonous. So these are the Solanaceae of the leaves. Now, so these are the diagram. Here it is the Makui, that is Solanum nigrum plant, that is Makui. A flowering twig in diagram A, that is flower in diagram B. LS section of flower, that is C. Then D, that is stamens in the bundles, and E, that is carpels, you can see. And this is the floral diagram of Solanaceae, as you can see, right? As you can see, there is a plus sign over it, that represents maybe the actinomorphic. So this is it. Now the floral characters. Inflorescence, solitary, that is a single flower. Axillary or cymose, as in Solanum, right? Flower, it is bisexual and actinomorphic. Yeah, flower is bisexual and it is actinomorphic, right? Calyx, sepals 5, corolla and calyx, these are like sepals 5, petals 5, united. Then persistent and velvet vestivation and velvet vestation. Velvet vestation, what are the velvet vestation? When the sepals and petals, they just touch each other, right, in a wall, right, in a successive manner. As we know the examples, that is calotropis, that is velvet. Now calyx and corollas is done. Now endoecium, it is a male reproductive unit. Endoecium contains stamens that are 5 in number. Epipetalous, when stamens are attached to the petals, they are epipetalous, right? Examples are brinjals, right? And then what about the epiphyllous? They are in flowers of lilies, right, as you know. Now gynoecium, very important. Now in Solanaceae, in gynoecium, bicarpally placed syncarpus, ovary superior, bilocular, placenta swollen with many ovules and exile, right? Placenta swollen with many whorls and enzyme. Fruits, they are berry or capsule, right? Seeds, they are many seeds and endospermous, right? Floral formula like plus bisexual, K calyx is fused, right? Then corolla, that is also fused, and then it is adhesion with the endoecium, means stamens and corolla, that is petals, are being attached. Maybe the case of the epipetalus, right? This represents the epipetalus. This is very important. This can ask what C5 fuse adhering to the A5. This can be asked. What does that mean? It is epipetalus. Now it is asking such type of tricky questions, right? Now G under it is like superior ovary and it is fused, right? Now economic importance. Many plants belonging to this family are source of food: tomato, brinjal and potato. What is the scientific name for tomato? Solanum tuberosum. No, it is for potato. It's not for tomato, right? So for potato it is Solanum tuberosum. For makui it is Solanum nigrum, right? Tomato, brinjal and potato. So these are the source of food. Then spice, that is chili. Medicine, belladonna, ashwagandha. Fumigatory, that is fumes, that is tobacco. And then ornamentals, that is petunia. So this is all like the chapter. It was kind of long, too much information in here. So this is it, like, and so yeah, so this is all done.